Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our last Family Advisory Council for 2023. So thank you for your time today. Today we're joined by our leadership team, and we will have time to speak with Director Hauck. I wanted to share a few things. There's accessibility on Zoom. We have our ASL interpreters joining us, and we also have captioning available. So to view captions in Zoom, click on the captions icon. Alternatively, you may find a link in the chat to open captions in a separate window. Our ASL interpreters will be spotlighted and visible throughout the presentations. As a reminder, please keep yourself muted for the presentation so that our ASL interpreters can capture everything clearly. Also, if possible, have your cameras open. We love to see your faces, and this meeting will be recorded. A very brief reminder, at DODD events, photos, video, and audio will be recorded. By attending this event, you may be included in these photos, videos, or audio. Your attendance at this event grants permission to be in these areas. And the video may be used for educational, archival, or promotional purposes. So after this meeting, the video will be uploaded to the DODD website. And a quick reminder of the intent of this time is for the DODD administrative team to hear firsthand from multiple people on focused issues that affect people across Ohio, and allows an opportunity for everyone a chance to share. If you have particular concerns that are specific to your family, to your services and support, those can be handled on an individual basis. So again, welcome. My name is Meredith Mendoza-Gillett, and we are going to be speaking with our leadership. So we'll have some updates from our community life engagement team, the Medicaid team, the Ohio ISP team, some updates from the Family LifeCourse Nexus, and we'll have time with leadership. So I'll go ahead and I will hand it over to Keith Banner with Community Life Engagement. Keith, do you have access to share your screen?
I think I do. I'm going to do it right now and see if it works. Do y'all see my PowerPoint?
I do not, Keith.
I do not.
Of course not. Let me try it again.
Now we do.
Okay, cool. I'm going to get her on there. Hold on a sec. So thanks, Meredith. I'm just going to walk through I think there's 8 slides on this that kind of high level updates for December. I want to start with the Adult Day Support Quality Pilot Project, which we initiated October. We have we have 100 Adult Day support providers across the state that are participating in this project to kind of invest in their infrastructures to deliver quality services set on a measure set that we've established of what quality means for Adult Day supports and the people that are being supported. So the initial phase is, again, kind of investing in their infrastructure. So we're funding access to technology to increase efficiency and kind of making a way for the staff and management to do the documentation and other aspects of the service easier. And then we're also supporting quality staff to kind of focus in on and help Adult Day support providers deliver the service better. We have a quality measure set that includes, if they have access to a curricula that they're supporting people with, if they're increasing their capacity to support people with significant needs. So all that's under this large project that is going to fade out in 2025. So we're going to be with the 100 providers for a while to kind of support them. And I'm going to share this PowerPoint with Meredith, and maybe she can send it out to you guys, and you can check on the updates about it at that website address there, that link. We also have a partnership with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities that we're a year into, called Works for Me, to support people who are currently in sub-minimum wage if they're interested in contemplating kind of leaving that and getting a job in the community. So Melissa Morelli is leading our part of the project with the OOD, and they've kind of started in the Northeast with several providers, but now they're kind of branching out and talking to sub-minimum wage providers across the state who are interested in and getting support and assistance to kind of support folks to move into community integrated employment. We have several grants that we are that we just finished kind of scoring, and now we're awarding. And so you'll see on the screen there's several names here, because we just were able to kind of award a lot of different organizations funding to do projects based on innovative technology solutions, which is basically, we did an RFP out to get creative ways of kind of solving problems with tech in a wide variety of ways, especially kind of increasing the access and experiences for people with developmental disabilities, to see how tech might be a solution. And all of these organizations were awarded different kind of projects that ranging from developing like tech homes and try it tech homes to a variety of different kind of projects that we'll be kind of talking through as they implement. We have a kickoff meeting with all these guys on Friday, so we're just getting started. Regional technology hubs, we have you'll see the names there, and basically this project is to kind of build in each of the 6 superintendent regions across the state centers for training and support and experiences and different ways to kind of get supportive technology into the culture in each of those regions. So each of these organizations kind of propose different ways they're going to do that across those 6 superintendent regions. So again, we're just getting started. We're going to have actually a kickoff meeting for that January the 4th. So be on the lookout for updates, which I'm going to tell you about technology updates here in a sec. And then we have an innovating inclusive supports grant that we just awarded to 4 organizations to improve access to community-based supports for people with significant needs, ranging from employment to adult day programming to family partnerships. So then again, that was just awarded, and we have a kickoff meeting tomorrow for that one. So please stay tuned. I wanted to just go into briefly this grant that's in its 2nd year almost now, where we're helping these 4 post-secondary organizations, Auburn, Ohio State, University of Cincinnati, and Youngstown, to support people young people in a different way toward a career as opposed to just a job. So we wanted to help them increase that access to folks to apprenticeships, credentialization, education post high school, so that they can be looking at the world and through the lens of, I want a career, I want to be able to advance, I want to be able to figure out where I fit in the workforce beyond just job development and placement. So, and there's going to be some stories coming out on that soon, so stay tuned on that one. We have a community life engagement supportive technology communities of practice 2 that we do, one specific to tech first and then one to assistive technology. The next one coming up is the tech first one, and families and other folks are also invited to come and just kind of listen to what's happening and kind of ask questions. The next one, January 12th, and you can email me or Britta at those emails if you're interested, and we'll send you out the link to join virtually. I wanted to also kind of just focus in on, we talk a lot about supportive tech and assistive tech, and that really the conversation has to include access to, Wi-Fi. And so we have an internet assistance project through the county board system where we reimburse county boards for the folks that are eligible for their services to pay for Wi-Fi access. So if you have questions about that, you can always contact me, but that would be your county board who would need to get into a master agreement with us and go through all that paperwork. But we would love to support anybody who needs that access to Wi-Fi for supportive tech reasons. Another tech shout out is we do a monthly tech first update. We just completed it and it'll be coming out next week. Everything that around supportive technology in Ohio is kind of focused in on, from grants to stories about people using tech to just every variety of story around what supportive tech is, what's happening in supportive tech in Ohio. So you can, when you get the PowerPoint, you can click on that to subscribe to that tech update. And I was trying to go fast. Hopefully I did it okay. You can always email me at that email and I'll answer any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. You are always brief and to the point. Does anybody have questions for Keith or for a community life engagement team about projects or things coming up for the new year? Okay. Yes, thank you again for sharing all of the great things you guys are doing.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So we will move right along to our next presenter. Give me one moment. Are you able to see my screen? Yes, okay. Great. So next we are gonna kick it over to Jolynn Carlson to give some updates on all the things happening with Medicaid.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jolynn Carlson, and I'm a policy manager here in the Medicaid division at DODD. I support a small but mighty team of technical assistance staff who provide support to county boards, providers, and families on all things waiver service and authorization related. Wanted to just give you a high-level overview of a number of the changes that are occurring starting January 1st of 2024. These are a direct result of the public health emergency ending and our opportunity to make some changes to our waiver amendment to support some of the things that we were allowing under the Appendix K flexibilities during the pandemic. All of these changes will go into effect on January 1st. The first changes were made to the shared living service and the shared living rule. During the pandemic, it was permitted to provide homemaker personal care or HPC service on the same day that the shared living provider was billing. CMS would not allow that duplication of service to occur, so we were able to add a 15-minute residential respite service that can be billed on the same day as the Ohio shared living provider is billing. This allows the shared living provider to have a break in service and still be able to bill. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the parameters in the next section. In addition, shared living is also allowed under certain circumstances to be delivered to a person while they're in an acute care hospital. This was part of some of the CARES Act legislation, and it is certainly not for every person in every situation, but it is an allowance now that is in the shared living rule. In addition, there were a number of exemptions made to those individuals who are currently using shared living as their service. There were some scenarios where folks really required more service than the shared living provider could provide. And so this is an opportunity that if an individual is being served and meets these exemptions, that team will have the choice to do shared living or to do homemaker personal care. And there are a number of parameters around that as well. Some of the exemptions are things like a person requiring 2-on-1 staff, somebody who may have the behavior add-on, perhaps they have the complex care add-on, or they are somebody who requires awake staff through the night. The next rule I want to talk about is the residential respite rule, which certainly I mentioned at the beginning. Residential respite now has two different billing rates. First is the daily billing unit, which we have had for a number of years, and that did not change. So that is still an opportunity for folks. But what has been added for the relief of the shared living caregiver is the residential respite 15-minute unit billing rate. This allows for a residential respite provider to come in and provide some relief to the shared living provider, and the shared living provider can also bill on that day. Those two services cannot happen at the same time, but shared living and residential respite 15-minute units can be billed on the same day. Another change to residential respite is that residential respite can now be provided by independent providers. Formerly, the service, the daily billing unit service, was only allowed to be provided by agency providers. Another change is that residential respite can now be provided in the home of an independent provider or the person's home. So there are a couple options there. Some of the limitations are that the 15-minute billing unit residential respite rate provided for the relief of the shared living caregiver cannot happen for more than 12 hours in one day, and it cannot be more than 208 units per calendar month. So that's 52 hours a month. And it's important to know that this is not a rolling month, that it is a 52 hours solid cap per month. And again, this 15-minute residential respite unit rate is for the relief of the shared living caregiver. The next change, and this has been added to the homemaker personal care rule, the participant directed homemaker personal care rule, as well as I referenced earlier, the shared living rule, and that is that a provider may provide support and service to an individual in an acute care hospital. There are certain parameters whereby this would be permissible. So it's not for every situation and probably not for every hospitalization. Again, these are for things to support a person with communication efforts while they're in the hospital relative to their plan of care, following instructions that the doctor's given, folks who have some behavioral challenges that might need some extra support so that they will have a successful hospitalization and be able to return home with good instruction and be able to follow their plan of care, as well as for that individual who has some intensive personal care needs. So these are things like somebody who must be repositioned every 15 minutes or has a certain way in which they need to be fed, things that the hospital is not required to do. The county board will talk to a team, if somebody's getting hospitalized, about whether or not this scenario makes sense, and they will have a form that gets submitted to DODD. What we are doing is, because typically when somebody goes into the hospital, a suspension of waiver services occurs, and we have to have a mechanism to allow that billing to take place so the provider can get paid in those situations. So certainly scenarios where somebody is needing care while they're getting hospitalized, you're going to want to work with your SSA and county board if there are questions there. In addition, during the pandemic, it was permissible for parents of minor children to be paid caregivers for homemaker personal care services. This is going into the rules effective January 1st of 2024, and parents of minors under certain circumstances for extraordinary care may be the provider if a provider cannot be found or is not available. There are some links that I have shared with Corey. We partnered with the Ohio Department of Medicaid, and there are some PowerPoint presentations and slide decks that will be posted on the link that Corey shared from ODM that have a lot of information about parents of minors as paid caregivers. It is, of course, I'm sure something everybody knows is that there are rate increases taking effect January 1st of 2024. significant rate increases, some great budget work that has occurred. And the rate increases are for just about, for most services within the IO, the level 1 and the self-empowered waiver funding or self-empowered life funding services. And their rate increases will happen on January 1st as well as July 1st. All of this goes into the system, behind the scenes. It should be noted that in addition, there were also budget increases. So the individual options, DDP funding ranges, as well as the level 1 and self caps were also increased. They are being increased once in January, but it's important to know that those budget limitations were increased to accommodate the July 1st, 2024 rate increases. So it's, sort of on the information here, but for children, that for level 1 and self is $41,424 is the new budget limitation. And for adults, that's $62,136. And again, there's lots of information, additional one-pagers that are specific to shared living, specific to residential respite, specific to acute care hospitalization, as well as PowerPoints and slide decks on that link that Corey shared. So specific information can be found there. And certainly if there are questions, the waiver policy TA team is fielding questions, and our email is waiverpolicyta@dodd.ohio.gov. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Jolynn. I was typing and taking notes.
Okay, perfect.
So I apologize for that gap. I believe we do have some questions in the chat, and let me.
Sure. I think it's important for everybody to view the PowerPoint that ODM and DODD did relative to the parents of minors rule, as well as the extraordinary care instrument. And, teams will work with their SSA about willing and able providers qualified to provide the service to an individual.
So is that the first question? What if a provider
I'm
is
sorry.
found?
Yes,
Okay.
I just answered it. I didn't read it. And
No
then the
worries.
second part was, what agencies are going to be willing to hire a parent caregiver temporarily? Is this an issue families need to be aware of? Does DODD have a list of agencies that will onboard family caregivers of minors temporarily? I think any agency, may or may not be willing to hire individuals. I don't believe we have a list of those. I do believe the ARC has a parent directed program currently, and I certainly understand that they have been also willing to do that. And then Amy, if you want to continue to forward any questions you get to the waiver policy TA group, we can answer specific situations as they arise.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that.
You're
Can
welcome.
you also repeat and type in the chat the waiver policy TA email?
Yes.
I want to make sure I had that correct.
Yeah, sure. And I'll put it in for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Pardon me. Just make sure I spell it right.
I know that's what I was typing when you were talking. I was like, wait, is that right? Thank you for your patience. So Susan, yes, I see your question. I'm going to read it out. If a parent was overwhelmed by caring for an adult child with behavioral needs and medical needs that required overnight awake staff, and so they went to the 20% HPC instead of shared living, can they increase their HPC?
I think the best thing to do is talk to the SSA and your county board to determine whether or not the individual meets the shared living exemptions. And then based on that, go from there to, determine how much and what service can meet the person's need.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Corey, do you see any questions? No? Okay.
I have one quick thing. In
Hi,
addition
George.
to being, this is my first meeting, by the way, so hello, everyone.
Hello.
In addition to being a parent of a child with a disability, I am also an SSA at the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities. So the question about if an SSA finds a provider for the parent, you have freedom of choice as an individual and as a family. So SSAs can't dictate to you to choose a certain provider. It's up to the individual or the family to do so. We can help you research or find providers, but the final choice is yours.
Thank you so much, George, for sharing the input as a family member and as an SSA. It's helpful to have that input. Jolene, I see that you unmuted. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Oh, no, you know what? I think I just forgot to remute. So my apologies. And then I will probably duck out in a minute because I'm have another meeting that I have to attend, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to everybody and let you know what we have going on in terms of waiver changes.
Thank you. There's going to be a lot of changes, and I knew this was going to be a very exciting conversation. So I appreciate your time, and thanks for stepping out to join us. And thank you for sharing the waiver policy TA email for folks. Awesome. Have a good afternoon, Jolene. So I am going to move right along in our agenda, if I can. Apologies. And we are going to talk about the Ohio ISP and get some updates from that department. So Beth, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Meredith. I just wanted to say hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just want to share some quick updates about Ohio ISP. The Ohio ISP's standardized assessment and planning template and process to be used throughout the state. Obviously, the person and their family drive the planning process. And then we can go to the next slide. And just wanted to focus on a little bit of the why. And Ohio ISP has been around for a while, but want to go back to kind of the basic reason for developing a standardized system in Ohio. The same plan format and process so that Ohio ISP content can be individualized. I know standardization, we standardize the template, but that allows all the good stuff to be very person-centered and individualized. So standardizing the what we do and how we do it, and then adding in the really what makes everyone unique and allowing them to tell their story from those standardized assessment questions is what makes it really work. There's an online system available to teams. A plan follows the person served. So it really is meant to be a living, breathing, evolving document, not just a plan that sits on a shelf. Next slide, please. Okay, the Ohio ISP, it can be used for everyone. People receiving HCBS waiver services and living in ICFs must have an Ohio ISP in the online system by June 30th of 2024. So people receiving waiver services and people residing in ICFs are the people who are required to have a plan in the system. Lots of counties, lots of agencies, they're really having plans for everyone in the system. It makes sense. There are some larger counties that certainly have people other than service coordinators, service and support administrators doing some of their admin, clerical functions. So people who are receiving some locally funded services, they might have a different route for those plans. They might be shorter plans. They might use some of the questions and some of the things that are working, but really want to emphasize that we're really trying to support all of those teams and really focusing on those people receiving waiver services and residing in ICFs to get those plans in by June 30th of 2024. And that date, believe it or not, will be here before we know it. Next slide. I think it's important to remember with the Ohio ISP that there are 3 separate components and really getting back to what each of those components, what the purpose is. The introduction page, that is what tells the person's story at a glance, really what pops out about the person, what should we make sure we don't forget, and what should we make sure that we definitely avoid for someone, sort of what makes that person have a good day, bad day. It's really the highlights. It hopefully includes some pictures and things that are important to that person. So it's really, I think, how any of us would want to be introduced or described. So that's the goal with the introduction page. It's important that nothing lives on that page that isn't found in the plan or the assessment. It really is just taking the information we know and having it there at a glance, the important stuff. And then there's the plan. That obviously is what is prioritized from the assessment information. And once we get to know people, find out information, then we figure out how we're going to deliver those things that the person wants and needs. So the plan is what everyone's agreeing to. That hasn't changed. So that's sort of what people are going to be looking at. And then we look at the assessment as if you need to know how that plan was prioritized, the things in the plan was prioritized, making sure that, you know, as we learn and the more things are learned about what the person wants and needs, things change, that assessment is updated. And then it's still the team's responsibility with that plan author to decide what's prioritized into that plan. So there might be rich assessment information that the service and support administrator or the QIDP is learning that they're going to just gather that assessment information. The plan is what everyone is agreeing to. So it is really helpful for people to realize what step of the process we're in. The assessment is where you're asking the questions, you're familiarizing yourself with that tool and really finding out and discovering about the person and what they want. That's when you're going to be talking to people, families, direct support professionals, providers, all those team members to get that good information. Then you're going to prioritize the plan. You're going to develop that introduction page. And so important that if you're involved in the assessment in any way, that it really should be casual conversation. It should not be reading off every single question on that tool. It should be, everyone should be made to feel comfortable. It should be kind of a relaxed process. And then what we're learning, it really shouldn't be trying to solve it all right then. It should be, what do we want and need for that person? How do they want, how far do they want to go with that assessment? And then at the planning stage is figuring out, okay, we figured out what the person wants and needs. How is it going to be delivered? By whom? What entity? What provider do we need? Those kind of things. So I think it's important that we've learned along the way to really separate out that it can be overwhelming. It can be daunting. We hear that it's long and it's a long document, the template. But remembering that it is 3 separate components, and you're really looking at that introduction page to really give the highlights of what the person wants and needs is important to them. And then that plan is where you're going to spend the bulk of your time making sure that everyone is understanding the responsibilities and the agreement. And then the assessment is obviously where you're going to learn more about people and how the things in the plan were arrived upon. Thanks, Meredith. The Ohio ISP, just encourage people to reach out to your SSA or QIDP for information on what to do, what to expect, and timelines for transitioning to Ohio ISP. I think it's important when I mentioned that deadline, that all people receiving waiver services or living in an ICF have to have a plan in the system by June 30th of 2024. All teams are at a different place right now. We at DODD are meeting with counties. We have regional support facilitators who are really the face of the Ohio ISP. They're really helping SSAs and Qs, supporting teams to really see where they're at with transitioning to the Ohio ISP, determining what support they need, and then just rolling up their sleeves and helping support teams in whatever way that is needed. So just reach out if you have questions to the SSA. You can contact us there with questions at the email below. I also will put the Ohio ISP email in the chat, similar to the waiver information. There is a direct email that all Ohio ISP questions can be submitted to.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving us that overview and the updates of things that are going on. Does anybody have any questions that maybe they didn't get in the chat right now or have any thoughts? And Corey, do you see anything that I may be missing?
I do not, Meredith. No, thank you, Beth, for adding the email address in there. I was about to do that.
Sure. And can I add one thing? When you talk to your SSAs and Qs, part of the invitation process, we want to meet teams where they're at. Like I said, everyone's at a different place. But part of this is creating an OHID account. If you need help with any of the steps that help you get into the online system, the SSAs and Qs can help. We have resources available. I will also put the links, a couple of the links to useful resources in the chat and make sure that Meredith has those as well. That really just help people if they need help accessing our system. Some people might already have access, but it's an OHID account, a unique email address. And for some of those things, you might be asked questions. Team members will be asked for information, setting up those accounts, like date of birth, that unique email, things like that. So if you have any questions, it's sort of like setting up any other account. There are some definite pieces of information that we need to have that unique qualifier and for security reasons. So thank you.
Thank you for that information also, because it's like you said, everybody's at a different place right now with the Ohio ISP. So it's good to hear directly from you how to navigate this process. And I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Would it be possible for you to share a link to maybe some of the videos? I think your team has done a great job with sharing information to help families in a variety of spaces that are new to the Ohio ISP or just learning how to navigate this and what does this look like for me? So yeah, thank you for all the work that you've done, and your team is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. And I will put some of those resources. And I think it's really important to remember too, we have some great highlight videos that we're not saying that this has been easy. Some of it has been very challenging, but teams are overcoming some of those challenges and really seeing some of the benefits. We're hearing from people, from families, that the second time around is easier, that we're learning more about people, that people are getting more of what they want and need. So again, it is very challenging, but we are seeing some of those success stories. So I will provide some of those resources and some of the videos and things we want to share out. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Opening it up for questions again. Anybody have anything they want to add or ask? Once, twice. Okay. I will move on to our Ohio Family LifeCourse Nexus. And thank you again, Beth, for taking time out to chat with us and share information.
Thank you.
Sure. So I I know I mentioned my name earlier, but I didn't mention my actual title and what I do. So again, my name is Meredith Mendoza-Gillett. I am the Family Outreach and Education Coordinator for the state. So I work with gathering resources and helping families connect to the folks that have all the answers. I don't have the answers for sure. So I work with a great team and great folks who have a lot of knowledge in this area. So I can share my email, but I did want to hand it over to Corey Ferguson to share a little bit about some exciting things that are happening in Ohio next year.
Thanks, Meredith. Took me a second to find the unmute button. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. One of the things that we're particularly excited about coming up in March is we are having a Ohio Charting the LifeCourse showcase where we're going to be showcasing some of the things happening throughout Ohio with this Charting the LifeCourse tools and the principles and how families and people receiving services are really being supported in determining and achieving the lives that they want to live. So we're going to have a full day conference on March the 15th with our keynote speaker of Al Condalucci, who will be joining us. So we look forward to his insights and message in the morning. And then we will have a series of presentations of folks sharing about the successes of people lived experience and families sharing how their lives have changed with the implementation of some of these principles and tools. Different than previous years, on March the 14th, on Thursday afternoon, we are going to be hosting a workshop, which is an opportunity for folks who are interested in learning more about charting the LifeCourse or who want to build confidence in some of those LifeCourse tools to join us in Central Ohio for a half-day workshop. So we'll have more details about that and more information and registration and forthcoming in the future. But we're really excited to work with our collaborative partners, the Family Resource Network of Ohio, as well as the Ohio Department of Education, who is now a partner within this Charting the LifeCourse work as well. So we are grateful for them, our collaboration with the Nice Longer Centers, as well as DD Council, and we're all pretty excited about the showcase coming in March of 2024.
Thank you. I think it'll be exciting to have that that half-day afternoon workshop. I think it'll be very helpful and a good refresher for all of us. So thank you, Corey. And there you go. Another piece to share regarding the showcase coming up.
So in addition to the showcase this year, we are also seeking proposals from a variety of people who are interested in perhaps presenting what they're doing in this work. So there is a proposal opportunity out. The deadline is December the 22nd. And then a committee of folks who are planning the showcase will take time to read through all of those and then select the ones who may be best suited for the showcase in March. So if there are things you are doing, we're seeking a variety of input. You know, you could be a provider, a family member, a family organization, an agency, but feel free to submit what you're doing with the framework as well as the principles. And we look forward to considering you as part of our showcase this coming spring.
Thank you so much, Corey. I'll go ahead and share a little bit on behalf of my colleague and friend, Nathan Turner. So it's a pleasure having him with the department and working with us and doing some amazing things. So much like Family Advisory Council, which is the meeting that we're in currently, Nate has done some tremendous work and he has created a space for people living with disabilities to have an opportunity to have their voice heard, hear directly from our leadership, hear about different projects in just a more condensed version. So his meetings are more frequent than the Family Advisory Council, and his next meeting will be in February. I believe it is February 14th that he'll be meeting, and we can share the link to Disability Connect. Nathan also has a newsletter specifically for people living with disabilities with information that's important and in an easy to read format. So I'm so happy to work alongside Nate and some of these amazing projects that he's always involved in. So, and then something really exciting for the Ohio LifeCourse Nexus team is we're going back to the pre-COVID times. So in 2024, we will have virtual meetings, but in June of 2024, we will have an in-person gathering. And that in-person gathering will be a combination of the Family Advisory Council, which is this meeting, as well as Disability Connect. So it'll be a great time to have folks together and meeting with leadership in Central Ohio. So I'm looking forward to that, and we will share more details later on as they come about. So Corey, I'm going to ask you again, are there any questions right now or anything that I'm missing? No? Okay.
No, I'm not seeing anything.
All right. So again, Family Advisory Council, this is a setup of all of our meetings and the links to register. So I can share that in our after notes as well, so that folks can be signed up and ready to go for next year. I mentioned our Disability Connect newsletter, but we also have many other newsletters that have a lot of information. So Keith Banner's team, the Community Life Engagement team, has the Technology First. We have Memo Monday. There's a lot of communication that goes out. So that is the best way to stay up to date with everything that's going on around Ohio and with the department. So please sign up for that. And again, I can share links for that. Here we have a lovely photo of my colleague, Nathan Turner, and he hosts the second season of the DODD podcast. So he shares a lot of information about things that are happening in the state of Ohio. And he connects with a lot of our teams. So yeah, this is really exciting stuff. So I can find the link for that as well. And we have come to the part of our presentation where we can connect with our leadership. So a reminder, this time is for folks to share, ask questions about broad questions and aspects that affect individuals across the state of Ohio. For personalized inquiries, we're happy to connect with you in a one-on-one conversation. And we have shared a lot of the emails for our subject matter experts, so we are happy to continue to share that information. So Stacy Collins, if you want to go ahead and share some information that's going on.
Absolutely, Meredith. Thank you so much for throwing it my way. And it is just a true honor to be here in attendance with all of you today. Thank you so much for attending our Family Advisory Council today. I'm Stacy Collins. I'm Assistant Deputy Director in our Division of Policy and Strategic Direction. And I'm going to take a little time this afternoon to talk about our Quality and Innovation Unit that sits within our Division of Policy and Strategic Direction. But first, I'm going to pass it over to Steve Beha to do an introduction, and I'll go into some information for you.
Thanks, Stacy. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for today's Family Advisory Council. Really appreciate the time and even more importantly, the interest that you have in the topics that are being discussed, and just to provide us with some feedback on what you're seeing out there as family members. And it's just so important for us to hear from you, to get your feedback. And it really does guide a lot of our decisions, especially here in the policy and Strategic Direction Division around the decisions that we make and the policies that we are drafting and the outreach and education that I know Stacy's team and Corey and Meredith and everybody does. So again, just really appreciate everybody being here today and providing us with that feedback. Like I said, my name is Steve Beha, and our division in policy and strategic direction covers a lot of different areas. Stacy's going to go into a little bit more detail about the quality and innovation team, but also in our division, we have our early intervention team, whose main focus is children ages 0 to 3. And that program is vitally important across the state. And we're really proud of the work that they do, and also sad to see them go to a new division or a new department. You may know that in the governor's last budget, the Department of Children and Youth was approved and is being stood up right now, and our early intervention team will be part of that new department. So they do amazing work, and we're so happy to see them incorporated into the new department, but we are sad to see some of our colleagues go over there, but we will remain in touch, and we will definitely be working on a lot of collaborative projects with that new department. Within our division, we also have the cross-system behavioral health and support team. This team primarily focuses on serving youth with complex needs. This is a topic in an area across the state that deserves a lot of attention. And we are working on different projects, programs, and solutions around it. So the cross-system team works very collaboratively with our partners in mental health, in Medicaid, Jobs and Family Services, our Ohio Family and Children First Council. And so that team really does focus on that collaboration and supporting local teams who are supporting the youth with complex needs and their families across the state. And then the other team in our division is our data analytics and strategic direction team. And they are really focused on, providing us with the data that we need to make data-driven decisions in all areas of the department. They're also responsible for our strategic plan and the implementation of that. So that's just kind of a high-level overview of what we do in this division. Stacy, I'll kick it back over to you.
Wonderful, Steve. Thank you so much. Wanted to have a chance to just go over, appreciate you going over the policy and strategic direction division. And I wanted to provide a little bit of information about the team Steve mentioned, which is quality and innovation, which is exciting today, as you actually heard from multiple of the statewide managers who are within the quality and innovation part of policy and strategic direction. So just a little bit over a year ago, the director put in place the quality and innovation team and policy. And that team, the purpose is to really ensure that Ohioans eligible, and get my words out, I promise, for developmental disability services in Ohio have increased opportunities to live, love, learn, work, and pursue their life aspirations. And so within that purpose, we want to make sure that Ohio has an integrated system that empowers people to live their best lives. And so in order to do that, we want to make sure that we support and empower people with developmental disabilities and their families to engage with us on policies shaping their lives. And we also want to make sure that we are really within our service system and state focusing on people's interests, skills, and talents, that we're providing opportunities for personal advocacy, shared learning, and peer support, that we're supporting the statewide system to provide equitable, comprehensive, and high-quality supports. As you heard from Beth earlier in the Ohio ISP team, we're implementing and promoting the One Plan across Ohio. We're working to make sure that we are increasing our collaboration both externally and internally with other partners across the state. We're working to facilitate access to available community supports, to continually look at statewide service capacity and what's going on across the state. We're working to prioritize state-of-the-art person-centered planning. As Keith mentioned earlier, working to increase the use of innovative technology solutions across our service system. We are respecting and want to make sure we're respecting culture and language preferences, choices, beliefs, values, needs, and goals of people. We're working to enhance skills and knowledge as well of our intermediate care facilities, county boards of developmental disabilities, and providers. So we're doing a lot in that space. And I hope that you heard that from the different managers and team members who are here with us today. You know, we're working to make sure that we're engaging businesses and other employment related partners to make sure that we're supporting people who want to and have goals to competitive integrated employment, that we are supporting them to get there, that we're always working on establishing measurable benchmarks to the work we're doing across the state, and we are monitoring that. Also, we are working to address the workforce crisis through education, empowerment, and engagement of our direct support professionals and people served. And then, of course, work with our partners across the state to attract, recruit, and maintain well-trained and quality DD workforce in Ohio. And so one of the teams or parts of the quality innovation team that you didn't hear from today that I'd like to do a quick introduction to, because we do have representatives from that group with us, is we do have a distinct group working on DSP and provider support. And our statewide manager of that work is Ann Wysant, and she's here with us today, as well as we have Michael Hogan, who works on that team and supports half of the state of Ohio and our DSPs and our workforce. And so I'm going to pass it over for just a quick few minutes. Meredith, I'm looking at you if it's still okay to give Ann just a few minutes to talk about our DSP and provider support team.
Thank you, Stacy. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. We do try to join these in on these so that we can kind of hear from all of our constituents, because I think one of the most important things that our quality and innovation team does is looks at ways that we can collaborate to enhance the system. So if there are things that come up in this discussion that have an impact on the work we do around providers, supporting providers, workforce, we want to hear that. We want to hear it from all of you. So again, so glad to be here and appreciative of the opportunity to introduce ourselves. Again, as Stacy said, my name is Ann Wysant. I am the manager of the DSP and Provider Supports Unit. I have two wonderful staff that work with me, Michael Hogan, who's with us today, who covers most of our northern Ohio and eastern Ohio regions of the state. And then Renee Weaver, who is also with us, and she covers the remainder of the state, so the western area of the state and the southern area of the state. We have really been looking at how we can help enhance those high quality supports that individuals receive from the direct support professionals and from their providers. So we are looking at ways that we can enhance relationships between DSPs and the people that they support and the families that they work with. We are also focusing on ways that we can support the workforce in Ohio and help to address some of the workforce challenges that are going on in Ohio. We collaborate closely with our county boards. So each of our 88 county boards has someone in a position in which they are responsible for supporting the providers that are engaging and working with individuals in their counties. And so we are working very closely with those staff at the county level to make sure that we are identifying best practices, that we are sharing those best practices statewide, and that the department can be a resource to those folks at the local level who are working to improve relationships, to address workforce issues, and to ensure the delivery of high quality supports for Ohioans. So that is some of the work that we do. We've got some great ideas and things that we're excited to implement coming up in 2024, including partnering with Corey, Meredith, and Nate and their team on some ways that we can enhance the relationship between families, individuals receiving supports, and the direct support professionals who work with them on a daily basis. So very excited for the opportunities coming up to work with families and individuals. And thank you so much for sharing with us all of your thoughts and feedback. We greatly appreciate you.
And that's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing with us all of the things that you're doing across the state. It's an honor to be able to represent families and work with such a great team. There are some questions and some information in the chat, but I did want to take a very quick break so that we can stretch our legs, grab some water, maybe think of some more questions. And then we can come back like maybe at 1:05. So I will turn my camera off and see you guys in a few minutes. Hey, thank you everybody for your patience, and hopefully we all got a little moment to refresh. I want to read a few of the questions that are in our chat before we pass things over to Director Hauck. So if a family member reaches out with an Ohio ISP issue that their SSA is unable to address, is the email that was shared previously the appropriate place to refer them? And thank you, Beth, for sharing that, yes, families can reach out by email. And then Lynn Fogel asked if information and contacts for Ann Wisen's work and her team will be shared. Yes, we will share that information as well in the notes. George, thank you for sharing. Family members can also contact the SSA supervisor to get an answer to a question that the SSA can't answer.
Thank you,
so-
George. I think it's important. It depends on what it is. So yes, thank you for adding.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it. So, yes, please continue to put your questions in the chat and we will pass things along to Director Hauck. I really appreciate the director taking time out of her schedule to come and share with us. So, Director Hauck, I will let you take it away.
Thanks, Meredith. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you this afternoon. Usually we use this time for me to hear from you, what's going on, what questions you might have, what things you want me to be aware of, and potentially how we can address some of that. So I'll start there.
Hello, it's Amy Clausen here with Ohio Family to Family. I don't have any questions. I just want to say that with all of the waiver amendments, advocacy, changes, and stress that families are going through regarding this new time and new rules to understand, I want to commend really everyone at DODD who's been working hard on this. And the new resources we are finding are exceptionally helpful and worded much better than ever before, easy to understand. We continue to post them on our Facebook page at Ohio Family to Family and use it with our family support work. So I really just want to shout out to all of you. It's timely because it's the end of the year and I do like to be grateful this time of the year. And so Director Hauck, I just want to tell you how grateful we are to you and everyone for supporting families.
Thank you so much, Amy. And I'm glad that the resources are helpful. That's been a huge priority of our department, is to make sure that we have guidance and information that's easily accessible and digested. So I'm glad it's working out for everyone. Thanks so much. And if folks aren't aware of what Amy's talking about, I'm sure Corey or Steve or someone could put a link in the chat to the guidance documents that have been developed for the January 1st rule changes.
Yes, I think Corey already did to even a new document that I hadn't read yet before today, which was the FAQ that answered some of my questions earlier in this meeting. So it's really, yeah, there it is again. But the FAQ page I hadn't read before today, before like a half an hour ago. So thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much new information coming out every day from Medicaid and DODD. You know, families look to us at Ohio Family to Family to be knowledgeable about all of this. So we really work hard at staying in the know and working with you all at DODD. So again, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And please remember, if we've missed anything, let us know, and we certainly will work to develop that.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's always good to hear that the efforts are recognized. We work hard to make sure that, you know, the resources are accessible, and there's a lot of collaboration that happens internally. So, and thank you to our leadership for supporting us on making these things happen.
Absolutely.
Yes, you know, I'm just echoing the few conversations or many we have together, Meredith, Director Hauck, Steve and Corey. You know, it's so important that families can understand this information. If no one else is going to comment, one other project that Ohio Family to Family is working on next year is bringing together some people on our own advisory council, which we have at Ohio Family to Family, around the topic of mental health and crisis behavior resources. We had a very exhilarating, enlightening, and you could say heated, but we all understand where that heat is, right? Because families who are in crisis with their children with disabilities because of severe behaviors really is some of the toughest situations we have in the state. And we want to be their voice. So I'll be asking, I'm sure, Meredith and others at DODD to help us. We're going to be working on that for families. And Director Hauck, I just wanted you to know that that is becoming more and more an issue for us in the field. And families are really struggling. They're getting turned away from emergency rooms just because their kid has a developmental disability. They aren't getting stabilization care in emergency rooms. They're not getting what they need from our hospitals. And some families don't have mental health urgent care to go to, depending on where they live in the state. Or as usual, when our kids get sick or have a crisis, it happens on the weekend where we don't have access to those stabilization resources that happen during the week. So all of that, we're going to be looking into it. And we know that you have a multi-system youth coordination program, and Meredith and I are going to learn more about that for this particular project.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. We know that that's a concern for youth as well as adults. As most of you probably know, there is a new agency that has been developed by Governor DeWine in the last budget, the Department of Children and Youth. And Director Wente is working, I think, hard in this space. She has granting, I think it is, and Steve Beha, please help me if I get this wrong, but $1.9 million to some behavioral health services. And so I don't know all the details of that yet, but certainly we will communicate as soon as we know more. But I think it's a fantastic first start. I know there is lots more that needs to be done in that space. A new director of mental health and addiction services was just confirmed today. Leanne Cornian will be taking that position. And so, you know, that gives us an opportunity to meet with her in her new capacity to just ensure that people with developmental disabilities are on her, I'll say, radar as she plans and visions for the behavioral health system moving forward. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything else to add to that, or anyone else.
For the DCY telehealth project, I think it's important to note that it is a pilot project, so it's kind of limited, and I believe it'll be geographically limited. So we don't have all the details yet, but like the director said, as we learn more about where and when that pilot program will be offered, we'll definitely communicate that out. And completely in agreement with the opportunity that we have right now to meet with the new director at mental health and really, you know, stress the importance of providing behavioral health services in adaptive ways for folks with developmental disabilities, because oftentimes it's not that. There is obviously places where behavioral health services are hard to come by, but it's even harder to come by behavioral health services that are adapted to the needs of folks with developmental disabilities. So really stressing the importance of that, and to make sure that those programs, as they're being stood up, have the accessibility and adaptability for folks that do have a dual diagnosis or the need for those behavioral health services.
Thanks.
Thank you. There was a question in the chat. If you could please repeat the new person that was appointed.
So Kara Wente is the new director of the Department of Children and Youth, and Leanne Cornian is the new director of Mental Health and Addiction Services.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm not sure if folks on the call would be interested in Steve sharing some of the home and community-based ARPA spending plan that's out right now.
I can definitely share some information about it. I will put a link in the chat for those who want more specific details on it. But the HCBS ARPA funds is a pot of money made available by the federal government to enhance or expand HCBS services in the state. It was primarily authorized, well, not primarily, it was authorized during the pandemic, mainly to aid states in stabilizing HCBS services, but also taking the opportunity to expand them in various ways, or in ways that they may have needed some extra funding to be able to do so. So the current biennium budget that we're in, DODD received the appropriation from the governor and from the legislature for about $56 million of HCBS ARPA funds to be spent in a variety of ways. And I can go over some of those ways here. It's important to note that because this is one, federal dollars, and two, designed for HCBS waiver services, that it does require CMS approval of our spending plan. So some of these projects we do have approval for already, and some we do not. We do our best to notate that on the webpage that I'm going to put in the chat. But just know that some of these projects are not moving yet, just because we don't have the CMS approval to make them move as of right now.
And Steve, if you could just, for some folks who may not know CMS, can you
Yeah,
please
sure. So
just share?
CMS are our friends at the federal government, is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So anything, so not just in waiver world, but anything that has to do with Medicaid services in Ohio has to be approved through the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. So any waiver service that you see out there at some point or another has been approved by CMS. Any state plan service that you see out there, any managed care plan has been approved through CMS. So they, for those that may not know, the federal government provides us with funding for Medicaid services at a roughly 60% match. It varies based on the program, but because they do provide the majority of the funding for that service, they also get to tell us what we can and can't do with the service. So that's how the chain of command essentially works within Medicaid services. And so since these funds fall within that realm, and we are using Medicaid funding for it, or match funding for it, they do get a say in whether or not the projects are approved or can be put into place. So I'll just run through a couple of these really quickly. So the biggest bucket that we have is support for people receiving services and their families. There will be funding made available, again, pending approval from CMS, for things like supported decision-making, for supporting adult crime victims that may have disabilities. We hope to be able to fund mentorship programs, both for people with disabilities and for family members. We'd like to stand up an Ohio Leadership Academy with these funds. We'd like to, obviously those of you who have been in these meetings and others know that we're charting the LifeCourse state. And so we'd like to use some funds to expand that, make sure more people are aware of it. And then also use some of it to stand up some training for our SSAs across the state who really have some complex cases that they work through, and really want to try to do a better job of supporting them with some training and some resources that they could use in that area. We're also making some funding available to our county boards to be able to stand up various projects locally, mainly around accessibility of communities. You might have heard of universal changing tables, making funding available for that, as well as some other accessibility projects that they will propose to us. We have a bucket of funding that will be used for workforce support. So these will be, we're hoping, some essentially like micro grants to provider agencies to better support their DSPs in different ways, whether that be directly in support and training of DSPs, maybe it's additional benefits like an employee resource network. But we really hope that this funding can be used creatively and in ways that can help both retain DSPs in our field, but also recruit more to it if they can. We're going to use some funding for multi-system youth waiver pilot. We know that there are various options and resources and services for youth who are accessing services through multiple systems. And one that we know that we kind of have a gap in is our waiver services. So we are doing a pilot in that to see what type of service could best serve youth that have complex needs in a waiver type of setting. And then again, as most of you know, we're a technology first state. So we wouldn't be doing any project without a big bucket available for folks to access technology to enhance the way that they receive their services, to enhance their independence. We are also going to take a close look, or at least make available the funding for proposals around how do we use technology to better improve the health outcomes for people with disabilities as well. So not just service delivery, but also health outcomes. So those are the biggest project buckets that we have. There'll be some smaller ones here and there, and some RFPs, some grants that you'll see, but that's the big picture overview of it.
Wow, it's a lot. We've been busy this year. So thank you, Steve, for giving us like that huge overview. And thank you for putting the link in the chat so that we can take a look at it and mull it over. Does anybody have any additional questions for the director, for Steve, for our other leadership? Thank you all so much for a wonderful year here at DODD. Thank you for all the families who have connected with us, who reach out to us. It's an honor and a pleasure to serve the people of Ohio. So with the last few minutes, I just want to share our next Family Advisory Council meeting will be March 20th, 2024. Sounds really strange to say 2024. And this will be a virtual meeting. I will be putting the links and the flyer for our next meeting. Please share this with your networks, with families who may be interested. If there are additional accommodations or needs, please reach out and we are happy to do that. Director Hauck, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share all of these wonderful updates and information. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our families today?
No, Meredith, just thanks for, continuing to invite me to be here. I really do enjoy hearing from families and people who receive services, learning what's important to and for you and how we can, support you in that. So I appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much. Well, with that, I will see everybody in the new year. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Michelle.
I think it's just the two of us, but we're still recording.
It's all of you.